Hey guys, it's John V from Phone Arena here. You're watching our video review of the Huawei P8. So last year, Huawei brought to us the Ascend P7, and that phone turned out to be a great offering from the company, and it kind of made them a pretty notable, maker in the space. But this year, we've seen already some amazing smartphones, like the Samsung Galaxy S6, which has kind of raised the bar high for everyone else. So when the Huawei P8 was announced not too long ago, the specs weren't quite as mind-blowing, but at the same time, it's not just the spec sheet that's going to win over people. It's a matter of overall performance. So the P8 makes some new advances in different areas, so hopefully it's going to be a lot more sound package than before, and maybe it'll be enough to actually propel it to the top. Aesthetically, it looks almost like the P7, but has undergone some changes to make it an even more premium handset. This time around, it's an all-metal chassis with this handset. Our unit here is the champagne gold, giving it a good amount of substance. It's slightly taller, wider, and heavier than the P7, but that's because it's sporting a larger display. What's unique about it is that it's uniformly thin. There's no hump to the camera, and it's thinner than both the Galaxy S6 and the iPhone 6 at 6.4 millimeters thin. And it's really nice, feels good in the hand, and we definitely like the premium aesthetics of the handset. As we take a look around the sides of the phone, the left is clean. The top, you have a 3.5mm headset jack with the noise cancellation microphone. On the right, you have just the power button along with the volume controls. They're raised, good tactile feel, and with its uniformly thin design, you still have a micro SD card slot to increase its storage capacity. You have the SIM slot there. And the bottom kind of reminds us of an iPhone 6. That's because its micro USB charging port is flanked by two screws, so kind of similar in that. You have the left here with the speaker grill, and the right you have the microphone. The display here in the P8 is a 5.2-inch 1080p IPS Neo display. So at 1080p, it's more than effective, but honestly, we would love to see it be Quad HD to meet the standards set by the other flagships already. But they've improved many of the characteristics of the display. First and foremost, stronger brightness output at 503 nits, so it's a lot more bright. It's a lot brighter. You have also better color temperature of 7200 Kelvin, though it still kind of emits a colder color tone, so whites tend to look a little bit in the bluish side. Color accuracy has been improved slightly, though we definitely notice that it's on the saturated side. And with the IPS Neo display, it's meant to emulate some of the qualities of AMOLED, so you get those saturated colors with it. And that's also evident with the black, just because you get that rich, deep black color tone. Overall, we're satisfied with it. It's been just nice to see them push the envelope with its resolution. Actually, we're treated to an updated experience. It's Huawei's Emotion 3.1 UI. It's running on top of Android 5.0 Lollipop. Aesthetically, it's not really a dramatic change. It's slightly cleaner looking, but they still eliminated the apps panel, so everything's placed on the home screen. Now, for some people, it might be a little bit disorganized looking, but if you put them to folders, you might have a little bit better organization. The app panel is broken down two sections here. You have notifications and shortcuts. We do like how notifications are placed in this timeline view. And with shortcuts, you have access to all the connectivity features you want, and you have the flashlight on board too. Multitasking is handled in the same manner, nothing really different. It doesn't have the enhanced multitasking functions we see with Samsung's TouchWiz UI or even LG. And you have a simple mode too, so it changes up the UI itself to make it more straightforward. It looks like Windows is tile pattern with it, but you can always revert back. There's also support for themes, which is nice, not as comprehensive as what we've seen already with HTC and Samsung, but you'll be able to change up certain elements of the UI. And also has support for these knuckle gestures where you can just double tap, take a screenshot, or alternatively, you could actually crop a screenshot if you want. Now, overall, for power users, we wouldn't say the Emotion UI is great for that. Of course, it's not quite as comprehensive or in-depth, but the nice thing about it, it's just simple and straightforward. Powering the P8 is none other than Huawei's homebrewed 64-bit base octa-core Kirin 930 chip, which consists of 4 Cortex-A53 cores running at 2 GHz and another 4 Cortex-A53 cores running at 1.5 GHz. It's complemented with 3 GB of RAM and the Mali T450 GPU. Now, on the surface, when it comes to basic things, going in and out of apps, just basic stuff, it handles in a very responsive manner. We wouldn't say it's quite as fluid compared to the Galaxy S6, but still very fast. Now, where it kind of disappoints is in the graphics department. Running some graphics benchmark tests, it seems like the Mali T450 GPU just doesn't have the same level of finesse. It's a little bit choppier. Still usable, but not quite as fast as other handsets like the Galaxy S6. Naturally, the web browsing experience is flawless. You have 4G LTE connectivity for fast page loads, and with 1080p resolution, it's more than detailed to make out things, and you have very smooth navigational controls. You have two options when it comes to browsers. You have either Google Chrome or the preloaded stock one here. With the preloaded one, you have this nifty feature of being able to zoom by doing this double tap gesture. When it comes to music players, you have two options. You could go with the standard Google Play Music application or go with the one Huawei offers here. Now with this one, it's pretty straightforward, though we do appreciate some of the aesthetics of it, like the album cover art, and you have also an option to view lyrics. With the single speaker of the handset, it produces a pretty potent 78.5 decibels of power. So in small rooms, it definitely lights it up. But unfortunately though, at the loudest volume setting, it does sound a little bit thin, and it also strains as well. On the flip side, the P8 is a fantastic phone for watching videos. Videos definitely come to life. They have a lot of vibrancy and just very popular looking with the display. It has support for a wide array of different codecs out of the box, which is great. But unlike some of the other customized Android experiences, we don't have any sort of multitasking enhancements. So you're either watching videos or not. One of the more exciting parts about the P8 is the camera in the back. This year, it's outfitted with a 13 megapixel autofocus camera, which features an f2.0 aperture lens. You have optical image stabilization. You have a dual LED flash system. 1080p video recording. Unfortunately, it doesn't have 4K recording. And finally, you have a new RGBW camera sensor, which Huawei claims to be the world's first 4-colored RGBW sensor, and it's alleged to bring brightness by up to 32% in high contrast scenes and reduce it by 78% in low lighting environments. The camera app also undergoes some changes too. Now, before it was mostly a pull-down menu system. You still have that element here, but you can now switch between some of the modes by just swiping. And you can tell you have a time-lapse video, regular photo, you have a beauty mode for self-portraits, and this very cool light painting mode, which is used for low lighting photography. If you press the top left icon here, you have its additional modes. You could have HDR, Super Night, Panoramic, and you have even this all-focus one, which kind of simulates post-focusing effects if you want to. You still have a rich set of manual controls as well, so in terms of functionality, it's pretty in-depth with that. The question that begs to be answered, of course, is how well does the camera perform this time around? We knew that the P7 last year took some amazing looking photos, and it seems like Huawei does justice again here with the P8, just because the camera is just amazing. So let's talk about outdoor scenery shots where there's a lot of lighting. You're gonna get some really sharp looking photos filled with a lot of detail. You could even crop them without any loss to the quality. It does a nice job of handling dynamic range for the most part, though colors tend to be a little bit on the saturated side, but still very likable in many ways. With HDR mode, it does a nice balance between high contrast scenes, so you have a good neutral look. It tones down brighter areas, and of course it exposes more of the details in the process, and it's not too artificial in its production. Though when it comes to macro shots, it kind of struggles. You really can't go too close, but still does a fairly good job in that. Taking the phone indoors where there's artificial lighting or just less lighting in general, it still takes some pretty decent looking photos, though we do notice just a subdued tone, so images come out a little bit duller in overall detail. Now, when we take it to areas where there's very little lighting, or if it's pretty much non-existent, it's a hit or miss thing. Sometimes it takes good looking photos, sometimes it doesn't. Now, the biggest thing that we notice is that in some instances, there's just heavy noise in the shots, which of course doesn't help when you have very soft looking details combined with washed out looking colors. Now, there is a super night mode available, which is pretty neat. Essentially what it does, it just makes for a longer exposure time. So with that, it's able to brighten up the shot while still maintaining detail and also color reproduction. So it looks better when you use that mode, but you have to keep the handset very still. There's also a light painting mode, so you can have some cool effects with light. You have some really nifty things you could do. And it, of course, too, utilizes the long exposure. We wouldn't recommend using the HDR mode in lower lighting conditions just because the outcome is actually worse than the standard automatic mode. And when it comes to selfies, the P8 is an awesome phone to use. It has great detail, and that's probably the biggest advantage to it. Even with how exceptional it is at snapping photos, the P8 is a big disappointment when it comes to shooting video. Now, it does up to 1080p. You're not gonna get 4K capture with this. And with 1080p, the biggest distraction that we have here is just the overall softer, dull tone visuals. It's very light on the details, which is kind of surprising. But we do appreciate things like optical image stabilization to keep it steady. But there are other displeasing qualities about it. For example, it doesn't handle dynamic range that well, and it's kind of finicky with its exposure adjustment, and there's only touch focus. It doesn't do continuous autofocus. And finally, the audio recording is a little bit on the thin side. We're actually pretty content with the P8's call quality. It's pretty good on both ends of the line. Through the earpiece, voices are strong, vibrant, audible, pretty clear for the most part, and the same thing can be said on the other end of the line. Our callers didn't have any issues making our voice. And if you even use the speakerphone with its strong volume output, it's very usable even in noisy conditions, and you don't get too much distortion with it either. With a thinner body than its predecessor, the P8 benefits from having also a larger battery capacity because of the larger footprint, of course. It's now packing along a 2680 milliamp hour battery, and let's talk about our battery benchmark tests. It manages to achieve a mark of 7 hours and 12 minutes, which is respectable, not quite class leading, but good enough. That basically translates to day-to-day use, easily a 1 day of normal usage. Even power users won't have too much of an issue using the handset. But unfortunately though, when it comes to battery recharge time, it's pretty excessive with it. It takes 180 minutes to recharge it back to 100%. In comparison, the Galaxy S6 only takes 78 minutes to do so. All told, Huawei does another bang-up job with the P8. We can't really complain about the handset because there's a lot to like about it. It has a premium look, and one of the more comforting things about it is that it has that uniform flush appearance with the rear casing, because nowadays it's kind of rare to see phones without a camera hump in the back, so that's nice about it. And it's also well balanced in pretty much all the categories, so it takes some nice photos, you're gonna get good call quality, pretty long battery life, and we do appreciate the straightforward Android experience it has to offer. Now, the thing that's probably most compelling about it is the price point. Now, here in the US, we know that Huawei is still trying to get its foot in the market as being a big time player, but when we look at it from its off-contract price point, it's $500 euros, which pretty much converts to $530 outright. And for a base 16 gigabyte model, that's not bad of an option. It actually undercuts many of its rivals in the process, like the Galaxy S6. And when you pay, for something like this, it definitely feels like a phone in that price point. And you're not going to be too disappointed with what you get. It's a pretty solid phone. So if you guys want to learn more about the Huawei P8, you can check out our website, phonearena.com. It's John V. Thanks for watching.